Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and one of the most common questions that we get from all of you listeners worldwide is always about that difficult question of asking, how does my personal brand fit in with my business brand? Well, we have found an absolutely brilliant mind in this regard, and I say brilliant because I can actually speak to the incredible quality of his work and the service that he provides because he was recommended to us by a past guest that you all knew and loved as well. So I'm very excited anytime we bring on an incredible founder that has worked with our other guests, that is working with so many amazing entrepreneurs. Let me introduce you to him. His name is Collin Rutherford. Collin is the CEO of Founder Brands. He graduated from Dartmouth College, where he played D1 hockey, and while doing so, he fell in love with entrepreneurship. And under his company, Founder Brands, they help entrepreneurs grow their business through their personal brand. They do that by creating and posting social media content for their clients. Their ideal customer persona is successful B2B founders who can sell their services regardless of geographic location. And I know through the nature of Colin sharing so much of his work with us here in today's conversation, it's going to really force a lot of us to step back and think about, how do we show up in the world? How can we serve more people? How can we go deeper into our subject matter expertise? So I'm excited about this one. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Collin Rutherford. All right, Collin, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Heck yes. Also, I'm going to shout out for listeners. They always love a little behind the scenes. It is 4 a.m. for you in Hawaii right now amidst your global tour. So, Collin, really grateful to have you here. I'm going to start by putting the spotlight on you. Who's Collin? Take us beyond the bio. How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Yeah, thanks for the great intro. So I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and currently split time between Buffalo and Florida because Buffalo winters are terrible. But instead of going to Florida this winter, my fiance and I were doing an international stint. So in Hawaii right now on the way to New Zealand. Very much looking forward to it. I started entrepreneurship back in college. So I didn't start Founder Brands in college, but I did start Green Box Storage because I saw a need for something, a summer storage solution, because people were driving 45 minutes to the nearest storage location. I was like, there has to be a better way. So I ended up starting a moving and storage business back in college. Still have that business today, but it's seasonal and it pretty much runs without me now. So that freed me up some time for me to launch Founder Brands. And it's been awesome so far. I love entrepreneurship. I love the flexibility that comes with it. And I especially love running things remotely. It's what allows me to do this with you here today and run my businesses while I'm in Hawaii.
Yes, I love that overview, Collin, especially because you and I were talking a little bit off air and we have quite a bit of things in common. I didn't realize you're a fellow Floridian these days as well. So we've got that in common too. But really where I want to go is you and I both went to school, you for graduate school in Waltham, Massachusetts at good old Bentley University. And that's where I started my first business, Collin. And I remember being a 19-year-old and asking myself that big question of, do I start a company name? Do I always talk about my actual company name? Do I do things under my name? Because really my model back then was, I was like, Tony Robbins. It's so cool. I don't know his company name, but we all know his personal brand. It was always that question of business brand or personal brand. Really what I love about your work is the answer is, well, both should work in conjunction with the others. Introduce us to that notion behind Founder Brands and why the founder is just as important as the brand.
Absolutely. So it's my opinion that building a personal brand on social media is both 100 times easier and 100 times more effective than building a company brand. I don't know about you, Brian, but I don't follow a single company on any social media platform. Instagram, LinkedIn, X, TikTok, not a single platform. I follow tons of entrepreneurs though, because they provide behind the scenes access, they provide personality content, and I can get to know and trust them. And then that provides the opportunity for them to turn me into a client. And that's what we help our clients do. We help them build that trust, build that authority, and eventually drive the 3 R's, which are relationships, revenue, and recruiting. The three main benefits of a personal brand online.
I love that. Actually, when you put it into perspective that way, I hadn't thought about that, Colin, until you brought it up. You're right. I'm a big fan of Tesla. I've driven a Tesla for a long time now. I follow Elon Musk. I don't follow Tesla. I don't really care what Tesla says. It's nameless. It's faceless. To me, it just feels like generic brand updates, not any real genuine connection. And I think we all know those really big examples of personal brands. I'll call out Elon Musk. When Steve Jobs was alive, similar thing. We all followed what Steve Jobs said because he knew the direction of the future market. But Colin, you must also deal with part of the mindset stuff when you work with founders, is that they might think to themselves, who's going to follow me? Like, I'm not a famous celebrity. I'm not a famous entrepreneur. Talk to us about that for the founder who's thinking, well, I don't have a brand just yet.
Yeah, I hear this all the time. It's a mentality switch that we have to make with a lot of our clients. They think, I don't want to post about what I ate for breakfast today. And we're like, that's not at all what you should be posting. You don't need to post every single second of your day. What you do need to post is the 4 content pillars. So I'll walk you through briefly them. So number 1 is value add content. This is educational content designed to teach your audience about something. This builds your authority in their eyes and makes you seen as the expert. Number 2 is personality content, and this is what separates you from a logo or you from your business account. You can post your career journey. You can post what's going on right now in your business, and build relationships in a way that a logo can't. Number 3 is engagement content. This is not designed for your ICP, your ideal customer profile, but this is designed specifically to drive in new viewers to your account, and some of which will be your ICP if you're using this mainly to drive revenue. And the last one is client success stories. This is social proof content about how you got results for a client. And people are like, damn, I want to work with Brian, or I want to work with whoever because they're getting this great results for their clients. And I want those results. So when you use these 4 content pillars in conjunction, it's a recipe that just works.
Colin, I'll call this out as someone who interviews a lot of founders and entrepreneurs. You really focus on one piece that I find too many people missing out on, and too many people ignoring and pretending that that's the easy thing. And you specifically called out, we need to have a very intentional strategy with regards to bringing new eyeballs in. And I think that too many people ignore that fact. And that's why a lot of people fall into that chicken or the egg problem where they're just like, well, I'm not going to start posting on social because nobody follows me. And you're not going to get anybody to follow you because you're not posting. It certainly is that vicious cycle that we need to be the ones that break it. Talk to us about that very notion, because that's how a lot of people feel. And I'm just gonna, because I know how in depth you know all of this stuff, I'm gonna really load this question up for you. How many of those founders, we hear it from listeners all the time, that think the algorithm just doesn't show my stuff? Like, even if I do have followers, my posts just aren't getting seen. How do you start to attack that big limiting belief with people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's funny. So many people think that the algorithm sucks, or they're getting shadow banned, or whatever it may be. Most of the time it's because they're not doing the right things and their account is totally fine. So there's different stages of growth. And by the way, Founder Brands and I have experience with X/Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are the only 2 platforms we work on, and that's where my expertise is. I will not be able to provide tons of insight on the other platforms, but these 2 platforms we're really good at, and I'm happy to answer any questions on them. So there are different phases of growth, and there are different things you need to do based on the phase of growth you're in. So for 0 to 1,000 followers, and they're mostly the same for both platforms. So from 0 to 1,000 followers, you need to be engaging like crazy. And engaging means commenting on other people's accounts, ideally larger follower accounts, insightfully. So when you comment insightfully on their accounts, you leverage their audience and you drive their followers to your account, because their followers are like, damn, this is a great comment on Sahil Bloom's profile. They're going to actually click on your profile, and your profiles page, the job of your profile page is to convert them into a follower for you. If you're posting on this early stage, you're basically just posting into the abyss. That's what we call it. Nobody follows you. Nobody is seeing your content. You have to drive new viewers to your account to get any views at all. So in this early stage, it's way more important to comment and engage on the outbound side than to actually post content yourself. But you should be still posting content at least 1 time a day to convince people to follow you. If you're not posting content, there's no reason anyone will follow you. I'll pause there because that was a lot.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful though, especially calling out that phase and really that recognition of, well, if nobody's looking at your page, get on pages where people already are looking. You call out Sahil Bloom, who is creating incredible content every single day. You absolutely know that's one of my favorite creators on both X and LinkedIn. Is that the solution there? Is it kind of the big names, or is it also just our industry and our connections level people?
Yeah, it depends on who you want to build a network with, who you want to build an audience with, distribution with. And these are the benefits of social media. So if you want people in your industry, you should be building relationships and commenting on their posts, because that's how you're going to build a following that's valuable to you. So when you continue to scale, you need to post more actually, but comment less. So when you're from about 1,000 to 5,000, I recommend posting twice per day. And when you're from 5,000 plus, I recommend 3 times per day, because you actually have an audience at this point. People are seeing your content. It's worth it to spend more time on creating that content. But to save time, you reduce the outbound commenting and the engagement that you're doing as you scale. So when I was in early growth mode, I was like crazy. I was 30 to 50 times every single day commenting. And that's how I got to where I am today. I'm currently at about 11,000 followers on X, and that's where I spend almost all my time. But now I don't comment as much. It's more casual, but I'm posting 3 times a day because people are seeing my content. Like thousands and thousands of people are seeing every single piece of content that I post. And that's just so valuable. I don't have to pay for that, right? It's organic content. It's free for me now.
Listeners, if you're hearing Colin talk about this and you're thinking, I just don't have that time, I'm running a business, don't worry. I know a little bit about how Founders Brands works with their clients, and we're going to get into the very cool model that Colin has perfected in the systems. I think that's a really important word to call out so that they can make this happen for different founder brands. So Colin, we're definitely going to get there, but you keep talking about engagement. So I want to ask you this question, because as mostly a social media lurker, I always kind of smirk when I see all the different calls to actions that people are experimenting with, and some of them will ask what they think are engaging questions, and they're just like, what do you think about this topic that I talked about? And some of them will have a more like link-based call to action. There's so many different ways to end your posts. What's your take? And I know you have those 4 different content types, but thinking about that broader strategy, what are effective calls to actions in our content?
Yes, great question. I will first say that your call to action doesn't matter if you don't have a great hook. So the hook is the most important part of the post, because no one's going to read it if you don't have a great hook. So after you have that, call to action is relevant and important. And I like to involve them and write them seamlessly in kind of the end of the post. But sometimes I'll just be blunt about it. I'll be like, if you like this post, if this was valuable for you, give me a follow. Or send me a DM if you want to work together. So like, I will be blunt about it, but not in every single post. That seems a little spammy. And I think you see that a lot often on LinkedIn. But yeah, don't be afraid to tell people what you want them to do. Because if you don't, there's a good chance that they won't do it. Especially at the beginning of a post, if I have a very insightful thread or long form post that I'm writing about, I say bookmark this in parentheses, because that reminds people, oh yeah, bookmarking is an option. I'll bookmark this, which in turn boosts the content in the algorithm and gets you more views and more potential clients.
Yeah, I love that. Listeners, this is not just Colin talking about social media and content marketing. This is really a masterclass when it comes to any form of marketing, is that people will err on the side of inaction always. We, as the business owners, we need to be the ones driving them towards that action. So acknowledging that call to action, it's really cool. Colin, especially, it's something I don't see very often on LinkedIn, is that top of mind reminder, bookmark this, which you're right. Those of us who are scrolling through our news feeds, we don't always remember that, but there are so many valuable posts, and I think it speaks to the value that you do pack in your posts that people want to bookmark them. So huge kudos to you there. Let's cross that bridge though, from people who are saying, okay, Colin, I'm posting a bunch of times a day. I'm posting across Twitter and LinkedIn. Sorry, I can't help but call it Twitter. I'm posting across these different platforms. What's that bridge look like to turn that attention, to turn that engagement into actual sales and revenue? And importantly, I have to throw this into this episode. Talk to us about patience there, because obviously this doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, that was going to be the first thing that I brought up. So number one, the most important thing is consistency. To give you a background on me, I started building my personal brand in June 2023. So this is over 2 years ago, two and some change now. I now have almost 11,000 followers on X. But it didn't take that long. It took about 12 12 months, 6 to 12 months to really see a lot of growth. And I now drive hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue from that platform. So it's going to only increase. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Once you build that distribution, it is so powerful and it's life changing. It's made launching founder brands easy, like really easy, because I have this distribution already of thousands and thousands of people that follow me, know me, trust me, because they've been reading my content for some of them for years now. So it's just amazing. In terms of time frame, if you're starting from scratch on these platforms, I wouldn't expect any results in terms of leads, inbound leads. I wouldn't expect results within the first 6 months. You need to grind for 6 months, and it is a lot of work, but you need to know what to do as well. But man, once you pass that hump, it's just like it's like an avalanche. It just keeps going. If you have tried before, but you've posted sporadically, not consistently, and you kind of just got distracted or like, I don't think this is worth my time. And so you have an account basically you tried with. Within about 3 to 4 months, you should be able to see some growth and some inbound leads if you're doing it right. And what right is the 4 content pillars that I shared, but it's also the engagement piece. They're both equally important for having quick growth. And when I say quick, I'm like 3 to 6 months. Like that's quick in this time frame. But yeah, you got to do both, and that's the time frame you should expect.
Yeah, I love that. I really appreciate those insights, Colin, because I think every great entrepreneur plants seeds early. It's really cool. I always remind people that if you guys started doing this, if all of us, myself included, if we started doing this a year ago, we'd be a year ahead of where we are now. And Colin, when people ask me about launching this podcast in 2016, I use the same word that you did. I love the smile that you had on your face when you talk about the ease of launching founder brands. By the time I launched this podcast, I already had thousands of people on my email list who had read my book. And so it was so much easier to launch my podcast and say, hey, if you guys like the book, like here's the podcast 3 days a week. We're starting out, and it made it so much easier to already have that audience. So listeners, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, this is going to be really cool when I launch this new product or this new service or this new brand, if you start now, before you have those things, it becomes easier to be successful out of the gates because you're already going to start putting that time in those reps in. So Colin, you talk about looking for those wins. And obviously leads is kind of the sexiest. It's the easiest metric for us to talk about. But in that interim period, what are the metrics that you pay attention to with regards to, hey, this is working. We have some early traction. We have some things we can play with here. What are those metrics that are on your radar?
Yeah, I got a lot of insight there. And I do want to back up quickly because there is like an old cliche that some entrepreneurs know, but not everyone does. It's first time entrepreneurs work on product. Second time entrepreneurs focus on distribution. And this cannot be the most true thing ever. Experienced entrepreneurs work on distribution. I had success with my first business in college because I had an email list for the entire campus. It made it so easy to launch. And when I say easy, it's like, it's not easy, but it's way easier than like, how am I going to get clients? So I could just email out campus and I got my first clients immediately in college. Now with my social media, content agency, founder brands, and my social media following, I had thousands of followers, and I was like, okay, this is how I'm going to get clients. And I posted about it and drove leads from it. And it was relatively easy compared to having no distribution at all. So it's a huge benefit of a following. You had your distribution through email. Great. Find a way to build your distribution before you launch, and it'll be way easier. Okay, I'll get into your question now about metrics. So there are tons of what I call vanity metrics on social media. And this is your general followers, impressions, engagement, bookmarks on X, verified followers, which we're putting a lot of weight into these days. So these are all great metrics to follow based on the growth of your personal brand and the growth of your account. Really, I would say they're not as important because if you really think about it, these metrics, they're not real. They're literally completely made up. Before social media existed, there was no impressions, engagements. So we think they're fairly surface level. And what really matters, though, is revenue. If you want to grow your business, you need more leads, more clients, more revenue, right? So that's what really matters. But before you get there, definitely start to track your follower growth, your impressions, create a feedback loop with your content too. Figure out every week, analyze your content, be like, what worked? Why did this work? Was it the hook? Was it the content? Was it a post on LinkedIn that I said about employees, and there's so many employees on that platform that it resonated and got people talking about it? There's all these different things that can go into why a post outperformed, and whether that was even the audience you wanted to target to begin with. I've gone viral more times than I can count, and often they go outside of the space of like entrepreneurship that is on LinkedIn and X. And it doesn't really value me that much to do that, but it's good to go viral, and you can drive in new views. That's the engagement content that I mentioned before, some of which the viewers will be your ICP. I'll pause there. I'm talking too much.
No, it's so well said, Colin, because I feel like it's the word I'll use is aspirational. It's also something that it's easy to get excited about these things, because part of entrepreneurship, I have a nonprofit, Through Entrepreneurship, and on the Through Entrepreneurship podcast, we had an episode recently that talked about the difference between school and entrepreneurship. And the difference is that in school, we're always looking for that right answer. Is that for, 12, 16, 17 years of our lives, we've been trained of, hey, this is the answer, you must find it, and you must say that answer, which is totally opposite from the real world, and especially entrepreneurship, where the answer is that there are no answers. You just kind of have to keep playing the lottery. You have to keep taking chances. You have to keep putting your name in the hat, and eventually your name is going to come up. And I love these tangible examples from you of, you will go viral along the way for parts, maybe, but that's actually not the goal. And I think that too many people think that that is the goal. Talk to us about what that goal really is. And I wonder, this is the math tutor in me coming out, is there an inflection point? Like, a lot of people always look for, what was the day that it changed, Colin? What was the day that all of a sudden you became an influencer? You had this big following. Is there that inflection point, or what are those small success metrics you look for?
Yeah, like round numbers are great for follower count on social media. So when I hit my first 1,000 followers on X, I was just like, this is the best. I've been working for, I think it might have been 6 to 7 months before I got from 333, which is where I started, to 1,000. It was a grind. Like every day before I went to bed, I would comment on social media on X for 30 minutes. Before I went to bed, I got an engagement mode basically to drive new followers and new people to my profile. And then I'd wake up hoping I got like at least 2 followers the next morning. And I was like, if I got 2 or 3, I'm like, this is great. Like, I can't wait to continue doing this. Sometimes I had none. And I'm like, damn, I spent 30 minutes last night doing this for nothing. That's a huge change from where I am today. Like, I get thousands and thousands of followers on every single post just by typing it up and hitting send. But I wouldn't be here without that work that I put in 2 years ago in my bed in June, July, August, so on, 2023. In terms of social proof and like human psychology, I feel like when you had 1,000 followers, you have some form of like you're somewhat notable. You can be somewhat of your reputation increases at 1,000. At 5,000, that takes a big hop up. At 10,000, which is the only other like round number that I've eclipsed, it's like I don't even care about followers anymore. It's completely irrelevant metric to me. I've hit a 10,000. I think that's very. If someone comes to my profile and they see 10,000, they're like, okay, this guy's got a lot of followers. A lot of people know him. A lot of people trust him. He knows what he's talking about. So the only thing I optimize for these days is relationships and revenue. And when I'm hiring, recruiting as well, the 3 R's.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Colin, this is a masterclass, not just in the context of all the things that you do, but I feel like you're really showcasing your entrepreneurial mindset for us, which this stuff is universal. I mean, this is a good, healthy, sustainable mindset when it comes to marketing and sales and long-term growth and scale. So I really appreciate these insights, but I also know, kind of intentionally on my end, is that we've been leading listeners to a cliff where they're thinking, Colin, I'm not going to be able to do all of this stuff on my own. Like, I just don't have the time. I don't have the wherewithal. I don't want to be creating all of this social media content. Obviously, we're in a world where a lot of people are thinking AI can help. There's so many different solutions coming up with this, but Colin, I have some behind the scenes intel on the way that Founder Brands works, because obviously you and I have a mutual friend, and he's been such a big advocate for the way that you guys operate as well. So walk us through that. I think it's so brilliant the way that your team gathers the intel from the founders that you work with, and you turn that into a month-long roadmap. Give us some transparency. Share with listeners who don't know the way Founder Brands works. I'd love for them to get those insights.
Absolutely. So going back to when I was building my personal brand, I was like, this is taking so much time. It's taking time away from me running my business and growing my business, but I knew how valuable it was in the future that it would help me achieve of building my personal brand. So I hired someone part-time just for myself. And then her name's Stephanie, we built this system that saved me so much time. And that's actually how Founder Brands was born. This Founder Brands is a solution to my problem that other people also had. And I think that's a great way to start businesses, but we can talk about that on another podcast. So basically, it's a done-for-you service. All of our clients are given their own content manager. So basically, one time per month, the clients hop on with their content manager on a Zoom call, even a phone call, just something that can be recorded. And we have a line of questioning designed specifically to pull out content in those 4 content pillars that I shared with you earlier today. So we take that transcript and we turn that hour-long interview content recording, we call it, into a month's worth of social media content on both X and LinkedIn with one post every single day on each platform. So that's the content piece, completely done for you. Daily posts, private content dashboard, you get your own content manager. You also get assigned a client success manager. So you're really getting an entire content team plugged into you and your business. We love it. But that's only half the piece. There is the engagement piece, which we've talked about at length here today already. Because if you're just posting content, especially at the early stage, you're going to grow so slow and you're going to quit because you're like, this isn't effective. So we have the other half, which is the outbound. This is the engagement side. If you want to do the engagement, the commenting and the DMs to drive leads, great. Someone needs to do it. Whether it's you, whether it's us, it just needs to be done or else you're not going to have success. So if you hire us to do it, we actually do research on your ideal customer profile. We will find audience or profiles basically on X and LinkedIn that are people that you want to work with. We will compile them into a list, and then we will comment on their posts hundreds of times collectively every month. And we'll also DM them. So when you're doing cold outbound, what doesn't work is if you just send hundreds and hundreds of DMs, generic, or even, hey, name, like those DMs you get all the time on LinkedIn. They're so annoying. But how you do get responses is if you build rapport with that lead and you comment on their posts for about 2 to 3 weeks before you send them a DM. We're seeing response rates with that technique insane. So we have a client we're working with right now on LinkedIn. His response rate is 31.8%. And on X, it's 50% with this metric or with this technique. So you have to warm the leads, but it just takes time. You have to build that relationship. You have to go back and forth in the comments first, or else they're not going to respond to you. They've no idea who you are. They've never seen your face, never seen your profile picture. Do that first and then DM them, but don't pitch them right away. Just continue building that relationship, build, and eventually book what we call a networking call. And eventually transactions will occur. And we see that across a lot of our clients. So again, content on one side, outbound on the other side. When you put those two together, it's a recipe for success. And that's what we do for our clients.
Boom, Colin, I love that. I think not only what you do is brilliant, but honestly, I've been so excited to have you here on the air with us today because I think how you do it and really hearing behind the scenes of how you've scratched your own itch, and that really is the system that you built for yourself, and now you deliver that to so many other people. And I can personally attest to the fact that at least our one mutual friend, always, every time I talk to him, he's just like, dude, what Colin and his team are doing is brilliant. So huge kudos to the way you operate. I want to squeeze in, we're running out of time very quickly, but I want to squeeze in 2 final questions. One is very simple. I'm hoping the answer is yes, but I'm not quite sure you'll give it to us today, Colin. But is this permission for us to just not post on our brands pages? Do we not need brand pages, or what's your take on that?
I really don't. I really think your resources are best spent building your personal brand. Because for one, you might not have the brand the rest of your life, your company brand. So when you launch your next business, do you want to start from scratch? Or do you want to be ahead with thousands of followers, maybe even 10,000, this distribution already built? It makes launching that next business so much easier. So that's my question there. And also, do you think you're driving leads with your business social media account? That's a question I can't answer for you. I want you to honestly answer for yourself and then make a decision based on those.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. All right, Colin, that was secretly the answer I was very much hoping for, but I'm going to put you on the spot one last time. It's the one question that I ask at the end of every episode. It's super broad, and it doesn't have to be about the nature of what we talked about today, because I really appreciated also hearing your entrepreneurial insights, obviously starting your first business so young. And the question that I always ask Colin is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, what's that one thing you want to leave them with today?
You must have a never-ending pursuit for personal growth. So this is something that I'm fortunate my parents distilled in me. Shout out to both of them. I am like always trying to learn, whether that's in social media, whether that's reading books, whether that's being in several entrepreneurship peer groups and talking with people who are ahead of me professionally. The only way, when you stop learning, that's how you plateau, personally and professionally. So just constantly seek more information, but it's not just like the consumption of this information. You have to actually act on it. So once you have that kind of built in that into your personal nature, things get easier.
Yeah, so well said. Colin, I'm always appreciative of not only amazing advice for our listeners, but when the person who's giving the advice is clearly practicing what they preach. And I feel like you've showcased that in so many ways with us here today. So I also know that listeners are going to be very excited to see Founder Brands in action, because you and I talking about it, that's one thing. But going to your website, seeing all that social proof, seeing you walk us through how it is that you serve your clients on such a deep and effective level, it's really cool. So for listeners who want to go deeper, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah, our website is founderbrands.io. When I was getting started, the founderbrands.com domain was like $10,000 or $15,000 or something, so that wasn't in the budget. So .io is the URL there. Collin_RUTH is my Twitter handle. So check me out there. I'm by far the most active on that platform. I love it. There's so many entrepreneurs on there hanging out, building in public, adding value. It's such a great place to be for business owners. So definitely, it's a gold mine. If you're not on X, you got to be on X. It's an absolute gold mine, especially for B2B service businesses. And just search my name, Collin Rutherford, on LinkedIn to find me. 2 L's are in Colin.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Success always leaves clues. So if you want to see how valuably Colin shows up for so many people around him, definitely go give him a follow on both X and LinkedIn. We're linking to those down below, as well as you can click right on through to founderbrands.io. So don't worry about remembering anything. If you're driving, don't worry about trying to punch that into your browser. Just click right through from the show notes. Otherwise, Colin, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
This was a blast. Thanks so much, Brian.